Some of the details you're about to hear are disturbing.
I'm weeping. I'm weeping because the kid, she didn't have to kill them kids. She didn't have to do it. I heard the kids around 11:30. Whoever was down there was picking these kids up and they was crying. And one kid said, "Mommy, no, mommy, no, mommy." And I heard a little boy through the floor was kind of crying. And right after that, I didn't hear anything else.
For most, parenthood is a promise, a vow to protect, to nurture, to love without condition. But for these children, that promise is broken in the most unimaginable way. Today, we're looking at the dark side of parents. Parents who, after enduring the pain and process of bringing children into the world, ultimately decided those very kids didn't deserve to live. This mother killed her 2 daughters. This father, left to take care of his little 8-month-old, ended her life instead. This young mother killed her 20-month-old daughter. This father killed his 3 kids, including their mother. This father's story is even more disturbing. He unalived all 4 kids. You see, when I say they killed their own kids, you might think it was an accident or carelessness, but it's not the case. In fact, this father is the most merciless parent I have seen so far.
One of the children's gasping. They look like they've all been in the back of the head. The 2 adults are dead in the bed.
Okay. And do they have wounds too?
Fire medical services.
Yes.
Okay.
Do not hang up.
There's blood coming out their ears.
Before we begin, please note that this video is created for awareness purposes only. I encourage all parents watching to share your thoughts and opinions in the comments section after hearing these stories. Let's start with the story of little Jamriia and Davin. Jamriia and Marvin Hall were just 6 and 8 years old when they were killed. They lived with their mother, Jamriia Hall, in a modest Maryland apartment. From the outside, she looked like a single mom doing her best. But then, something shifted. In 2018, Jamriia was charged with arson and child endangerment. She had intentionally set fire to her parents' apartment after disabling the smoke detectors and destroying family photographs. Most shocking was that her children were inside. Miraculously, they survived. But for this reason, she lost custody of these children. Surprisingly, Jamriia only served a year in prison, then regained custody in court when the father of the kids did not say anything. So, Jamriia got full access to her kids again. Life seemed to return to normal, like in this podcast.
I have 2 little mini-me's tonight. This evening I have
Jamriia Thomas Joy.
And I have
Devin Thomas.
1 year ago, Jamriia recorded this podcast with her 2 children.
Y'all been driving me crazy, but I love y'all.
I too.
Oh.
Until the irreversible would happen. In the audio, Jamriia joked about her kids driving her crazy, but her voice carried something heavier. Outwardly, she maintained appearances, but her patience was wearing thin, because what happened next was heartbreaking. On August 24, 2021, residents on Coventry Road in Baltimore reported a foul odor. A maintenance worker was sent to check it out, but when he entered Jamriia's apartment, he made a horrific discovery.
I'm just shocked. Nothing happens in this neighborhood. This is quiet. Nothing happens at all.
Inside were the decomposing bodies of 8-year-old Davin and 6-year-old Jamriia. Jamriia had been strangled and left in a bathtub. Davin had been stabbed in the chest and placed inside a sleeping bag. They had been dead for several days. Police immediately launched an investigation, but they found something chilling. On August 19th, 5 days earlier, neighbors revealed that they had heard screams coming from the apartment.
These details in this document are horrific. It details how the children were found and that neighbors heard screams. What it doesn't say is why. Why these children? A question that remains.
That's what a neighbor told police. They heard 6-year-old Jamriia screaming from inside her home in southwest Baltimore August 19th, according to these court documents. The little girl and her brother Davin found dead inside the apartment 5 days later. 2 children now gone, according to police, at the hands of their mother, Jamriia Hall. Her charging documents detailing the shocking and disturbing details surrounding their murders.
One neighbor also shared seeing Jamriia discard her children's beds just before the killings. All this information didn't make any sense until it did. Jamriia Hall became the prime suspect, but she had vanished. Detectives tracked her through surveillance footage and digital records. She'd taken an Uber to Baltimore County. On August 25th, she was arrested. However, Jamriia would shock investigators. She didn't deny anything. She confessed, calmly and directly, to killing both children. Detectives were left stunned, but it was only the beginning. She had lied to her mother, claiming the kids were with their father, but when police spoke to him, he said he hadn't seen them. He also described Jamriia's recent behavior as erratic. He had seen her yelling at no one on the street, possibly intoxicated, unstable. Jamriia was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, among other charges, after the 2018 arson. Many question how a mother with a violent history was allowed custody again.
They should have furthered the investigation because you set your own house on with your kids in it. So CPS should have took my opinion, CPS should have took the kids right away.
The Maryland Department of Human Services remained silent, citing confidentiality laws. But this case became about more than one crime. In 2022, Jamriia claimed she had experienced a psychotic break. She argued that delusions and hallucinations drove her to murder, but mental health experts disagreed. A mental competency evaluation was ordered for her. They said she was not psychotic and believed she had faked symptoms. Still, her defense insisted she needed psychiatric care, not prison. She remained in a state-run hospital while the court weighed her mental state. Then, in April 2024, nearly 3 years after the killings, Jamriia pleaded guilty to murder and child abuse, but continued to claim she wasn't criminally responsible. Inside her apartment, investigators found a letter. In it, she described custody struggles and emotional despair, but investigators found evidence she planned to burn the apartment after the murders. Prosecutors saw this as proof of premeditation. The defense, on the other hand, claimed it showed a woman spiraling into mental collapse. And then, by June 2024, the court made its final decision. Based on expert testimony, Jamriia Hall was found not criminally responsible. She was ordered to remain in a psychiatric hospital indefinitely. Now, do you remember this man I said was the most merciless father? This is what he did to his daughter.
A very disturbing story involving the father of a 9-month-old baby girl. Investigators say that father is charged in her death as well as sexual assault. Just a warning, the details of this case are difficult to hear.
8-month-old Asiah Mason was born on December 7th, 2019, to Eunice Mason and Luis Luna in Houston, Texas. Asiah was cherished, especially by her mother, whose past choices in men often followed a pattern, drawn to danger over stability. Luis Luna fit that pattern. He was charming, edgy, and intense. Their relationship at first was magnetic, fast-moving, passionate. But once their daughter was born, parenthood shifted Eunice's priorities, but Luis seemed unable or unwilling to grow with her. And what followed wasn't just neglect, it was something unthinkable. Then came August 24th, 2020. At 12:20 a.m., Luis Luna called 911. He said his infant daughter wasn't breathing. When paramedics arrived at the apartment on West Park Drive, they found Luna outside, pacing nervously. Inside, they found baby Asiah, unresponsive. Luna claimed he didn't know what happened. He said he had tried CPR. Asiah was rushed to the hospital, but despite every effort, she was pronounced dead shortly after arrival. What came next stunned everyone. Doctors examining Asiah found bruising on her neck. Her wrists had deep, raw marks, too severe to be accidental. The injuries were unmistakable. This wasn't an accident. It was violence. An autopsy confirmed their worst fears. Asiah had been strangled. She hadn't simply stopped breathing. She had been murdered. and the only adult with her that night was her father. Luna, when questioned, claimed innocence. He said he had placed Asiah in her car seat to sleep, near his air mattress on the floor. Maybe, he suggested, he fastened the straps too tightly. It was all just a tragic mistake, but investigators weren't buying it. His demeanor was flat. No tears, no panic, no visible grief. Detectives noticed how rehearsed he sounded. Then came the evidence Luna didn't know they had. The autopsy revealed something even more horrific. Asiah had been sexually assaulted. On August 25th, just one day after her death, police searched Luna's apartment. What they found was disturbing.
Executed a search warrant on the 25th at the defendant's residence, located bloody baby wipes in a garbage bag in the sunroom where the defendant was sleeping with the complainant. There was no diaper in the bag where the wipes were recovered.
Also, it's alleged scratches found around the baby's neck. Other evidence there too, just a little too disturbing to share with you here on TV.
There was no crib, no sign a baby had been cared for. Just an old air mattress, a baby car seat, and trash. In the sunroom, buried in a black garbage bag, officers found a fistful of bloody baby wipes. This wasn't an accident. This was torture. Surveillance footage confirmed that no one else entered or exited the apartment during the window of Asiah's death. No intruders, no visitors. Only Luis Luna. When confronted with the evidence, injuries, autopsy results, bloody wipes, Luna had no defense. He was arrested and charged with capital murder.
Luis Luna was scheduled to appear before a judge around 10 o'clock this morning, but according to the judge, they are running behind in the dockets. But this is a horrific case, and looking over some of those court documents, it now shows that Luna is accused of blocking the child's nose with an unknown object. Now, according to the Harris County Sheriff's Office, those deputies were called out to an apartment complex in the 1500 block of West Park for an unresponsive infant. EMS treated the 9-month-old, but she was later pronounced dead at the hospital. And according to the Sheriff's Office, they say that an autopsy revealed that she had been sexually assaulted and died due to asphyxiation. Now, homicide investigators say that the baby's father, Luis Luna, is accused of her murder, and he has been charged with capital murder. Again, he is set to appear before a judge this afternoon.
The horror for Yanis was unexplainable. She had trusted Luna, believed he could care for their daughter. Now, she had to face the truth. But where was Yanis when all this happened? It turned out that despite their breakup, she and Luna had maintained a shared routine. So on August 21st, she had dropped Asiah off for a planned visit. She was supposed to pick her up that evening, but she didn't. Not that day or the next. 3 days passed. During that time, Asiah remained in Luna's chaotic apartment. Luna didn't live alone. He shared that apartment with 3 other men. It was no place for an infant. And sometime during those 3 days, something unspeakable happened. In September 2024, 4 years after Luna's arrest, his trial began. Prosecutors laid out their case. Asiah was suffocated, not from straps, but by deliberate force. They presented the sexual assault evidence. The defense had few options. First, they claimed it was an accident, a car seat strap pulled too tight. Then, they tried a new angle. Luna had been in a psychiatric facility after his arrest. His attorneys argued he wasn't mentally fit to understand his actions or stand trial, but experts disagreed. They said his actions weren't random or psychotic. They were methodical. After 10 days, the jury deliberated and Luis Luna was found guilty and was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Her daughter was brutally murdered, taken from her too early, and so, she didn't get to ever celebrate her first birthday. She didn't get to take her to pre-K, see her take her first steps or any of that stuff. So she missed out on all that stuff because of what this man did.
How difficult are cases like this?
They're difficult because they involve children, and especially a child of this age. I mean, she couldn't walk, she couldn't talk. She had no voice, and so the jury really was the voice for this little girl. and spoke for her by its verdict.
The trial lasted 10 days and the jury reached a verdict within a matter of hours. Since it was a capital case, Luna has been sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
But baby Asiah wasn't the only one failed by the very people meant to protect her. Thousands of miles away, another child would suffer an unthinkable betrayal. This time, not through violence. Asiah Nevaeh Kudi was born in April 2018, a quiet, curious baby with big brown eyes and a soft giggle. But her life was cut short under the most tragic circumstances. From the outside, Verfi Kudi didn't seem like a monster. At just 18 when she gave birth, she was seen as a young mother doing her best, but those closest to her had already seen troubling signs. As Verfi grew older, her behavior changed. She became withdrawn, often ran away, and was eventually placed in foster care. By the time she was living at Gosher Court, a supported housing unit for young mothers in Brighton, it was clear something wasn't right. Still, no one stepped in. Verfi came and went as she pleased. Once she was even brought home too drunk to walk, but to many, she was just a teen under pressure. Soon, she'd grow into her role as a mother, but then the worst would happen. On December 5th, 2019, Verfi left her flat, telling staff she was going to celebrate her birthday in London. What she didn't say was that she had left Asiah behind, alone, and this was no quick trip. For 5 days, 21 hours, and 58 minutes, Asiah was trapped in that apartment. No food, no water, no comfort, no one. While she cried and starved, Verfi was out celebrating her birthday like nothing was wrong. Here's where things become almost impossible to comprehend. Just 2 days after abandoning her child, Verfi was spotted dancing at a concert in Elephant and Castle. She smiled as a DJ announced her birthday. She then traveled to Coventry for more parties and later returned to London, all while her daughter suffered in silence. By the time Verfi returned, the damage was done. On December 11th, Verfi returned and called emergency services, claiming her baby wouldn't wake up. Paramedics arrived to find her incoherent and panicked. Asiah was rushed to Royal Alexandra Children's Hospital, but it was already too late. At first, Verfi tried to lie her way out. Verfi initially claimed she had taken Asiah with her on the trip, but CCTV from Gosher Court showed her leaving and returning alone. No child, no stroller, no bags, just Verfi. And as detectives pulled phone records, social media posts, and videos, the truth came into sharp focus. While Asiah lay dying, Verfi was dancing, laughing, and documenting her birthday like nothing else in the world mattered. But then came the most gut-wrenching detail. The autopsy revealed that Asiah had died from starvation and dehydration. Her tiny body showed the toll: severe nappy rash, weight loss, and signs of prolonged suffering. In fact, this wasn't the first time. In court, it was revealed that between October and December 2019, Verfi had left Asiah home alone at least 11 times. Some absences were short, others stretched for hours, but every time, her daughter was left at risk. A care worker later testified that there was no formal check-in or check-out system at Gosher Court. Residents could leave freely. Staff were present during the day, but there were no routine checks to ensure babies were safe. On August 6, 2021, Verfi Kudi pleaded guilty to manslaughter. She was sentenced to 9 years in prison. While Asiah's life was stolen through neglect and abandonment, Shanara's story reveals a different kind of betrayal. One masked as love and sealed with a wedding vow.
A warning, the following audio may be hard to hear.
They're all gone. I need the police. I don't know who it is to come.
You need police or medical?
I need medical. I hear one of the kids, they're breathing. They're trying to breathe.
Marvin Patterson's brother, frantic, around 10 a.m. December 11th. He says Marvin texted him, overwhelmed. Then he kicked down the apartment door to see the tragedy within.
I saw my nieces, his nephews. I think they're gone, and then he was in the bed with his wife, and they're deceased as well.
The property manager also calling police.
One of the children's gasping. It looks like they've all been in the back of the head. The 2 adults are dead in the bed.
Okay. And do they have wounds too?
Fire medical services.
Yes.
Okay.
Do not hang up.
Wounds and blood coming out their ears.
34-year-old Shanara Bernoudi Patterson had 2 children from previous relationships, Keziah, born in 2009, and DJ, born in 2012. Life was full and joyful, but everything began to shift when she met Marvin Patterson. At first, he seemed like everything she wanted. Marvin was charming, attentive, and slid effortlessly into the family dynamic. They had a daughter together in 2017, and in 2019, they married. Her father, battling cancer, walked her down the aisle. It was a beautiful moment. But Shanara didn't know Marvin was hiding a horrifying truth. In October 2022, that month, Marvin was arrested, and Shanara's world fell apart. Authorities revealed he had been under investigation for a string of child sexual abuse allegations dating back to 2013. Multiple children accused Marvin of assault, some as recent as 2022. 4 girls came forward. One child described Marvin sneaking into her room while she slept. Another said he cornered her during a visit. A third recalled an incident from 2014 that escalated quickly into attempted assault. One of the girls managed to escape after fighting him off. Despite these deeply disturbing allegations, what happened next was surprising. Shanara struggled to accept that Marvin could be capable of such horrific acts. And even with the weight of the charges, somehow Marvin was released. A judge reduced his bail from $100,000 to $10,000. Shanara had spoken on his behalf and even paid for his release. She was still trying to believe in the man she thought she knew. But Marvin could no longer live with a family. Court orders prohibited him from any contact with minors. His release strained them both emotionally and financially. And then came life's roller coaster. Shanara, who was mourning her father, and then came the pandemic, and with Marvin unable to provide, the burden fell on her alone. Eventually, she was evicted from her home. With few options, she moved into Marvin's apartment with her children, a decision she would come to regret. December 11, 2023, just one day after her birthday, Marvin, overwhelmed by debt himself, an impending trial, and what appeared to be a complete psychological break, retrieved a gun. At around 8 a.m., while everyone slept, he shot 14-year-old Keziah, 11-year-old DJ, and 6-year-old Jamriia. Then, he turned the gun on Shanara, shooting her twice. Finally, he turned the gun on himself. What Marvin didn't know was that DJ, though gravely injured, was still alive. At 10 a.m., Marvin's brother, disturbed by a text Marvin had sent the night before, arrived at the apartment. Finding no response, he forced entry and found the bodies.
They're all gone. I need the police. I don't know who needs to come.
You need police or medical?
I need medical. I hear one of the kids, they're breathing. They're trying to breathe.
Marvin Patterson's brother, frantic, around 10 a.m. December 11th. He says Marvin texted him, overwhelmed. Then he kicked down the apartment door to see the tragedy within.
I saw my nieces, his nephews, I think they're gone, and then he was in the bed with his wife, and they're deceased as well.
DJ was rushed to the hospital. Doctors fought for months to keep him alive, but in September 2024, he succumbed to his injuries. Shanara's story was one of trust shattered.
But while I stand up here trembling with fear, I put on my bravest face to be in the same room with the man who murdered all 4 of my children. 2 of them violently in front of me with a gun, Chadney and Kara. And he killed my other 2 babies, Coy and Kaylee, with a hose that ran from the tailpipe of his car to where they were innocently sleeping.
But what happened to Faith Green would take the pain of betrayal into a realm no mother should ever have to endure. Faith Green was a devoted mother of 4, daughter of a respected pastor, and faithful member of her church community. Faith's life centered around nurturing her children and building a safe, loving home, until she met Gregory Green. Before Gregory, Faith was raising 2 children from a previous relationship, 19-year-old Chadney Allen and 17-year-old Cara Allen. Both ambitious and full of promise, Chadney dreamed of filmmaking and Cara planned to become an obstetrician. Gregory was a city worker with a criminal past who seemed to offer redemption. Despite his history, he had served 16 years for killing his first wife, but Faith saw something worth believing in. They married in 2010 and had 2 daughters together, Coy, age 5, and Kaylee, age 4. To outsiders, they appeared like a picture-perfect, blended family, but no one could have predicted what happened next.
I don't even think any punishment could fit the crime.
He does not deserve to be alive. Look what he did. Look what he did before this and was let go.
Gregory's past haunted the marriage. Faith had filed for divorce twice and sought protection orders, describing his threatening behavior and unpredictable temper. Still, without clear physical abuse, the court denied her requests, and those failures would breed a tragedy no one was prepared for.
The one thing that I didn't realize at the time that I found out after is when you're preparing to leave, that's the most dangerous time, which I knew I didn't even know, and in my mind, I'm just like, well, I'm just preparing. I just want to save money so I can just, get my kids out of there and just get our own place.
On September 21st, 2016, at 1:30 a.m., Gregory calmly called 911, saying he had killed his family and would be waiting on the porch. When officers arrived at the home on Hip Street in Dearborn Heights, they found Gregory seated outside. Inside, they discovered a scene of unspeakable horror. Faith was alive, barely. She had been gagged, zip-tied, slashed across the face, and shot in the foot. Worse, she had been forced to watch Gregory murder their children. He shot Chadney and Cara execution-style in front of her. Then he poisoned Coy and Kaylee in the family car using carbon monoxide. Once they were dead, he carried their bodies back inside and posed them in bed as if asleep. What investigators found next was chilling. Gregory had planned it all. A week earlier, he purchased piping from Home Depot to carry out the poisoning. He acted with calculation and cruelty. Faith survived and was rushed to the hospital. As the investigation unfolded, details emerged that deepened the tragedy. This wasn't Gregory's first rodeo. In fact, history was repeating itself. In 1991, Gregory stabbed his first wife, Tanya Green, who was 6 months pregnant, killing both her and their unborn child. After pleading no contest to second-degree murder, he served 16 years before being paroled in 2008. His parole was even supported by Faith's father, Apostle Fred Harris, who believed in forgiveness. Faith's father had written letters on Gregory's behalf, believing in rehabilitation. He welcomed Gregory into his church and family. That trust would end in betrayal. And so, the man who once earned a second chance destroyed the family of the man who helped him. Parole records painted Gregory as a model inmate, few infractions, steady work, and positive reports. He completed rehabilitation programs, yet none of it erased the violence he was capable of. In 2017, Gregory pled guilty to 4 counts of second-degree murder, torture, assault with intent to do great bodily harm, and firearm charges. The court accepted a plea deal to spare Faith the trauma of a trial. He was sentenced to 47 years. Let these stories be a reminder. Red flags matter. Protection orders matter. Believing survivors matters. If you live in a community and something doesn't feel right, say something. Whether it's a neighbor, a friend, or a stranger, you could be the voice that changes everything. These were how 5 parents killed their own children. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. Here are a few more videos you might like.